I already have all these references of this woman on my computer, but I can't just sort of... I have to make sure they're not displayed on the screen, because in half of them, her nipples are showing. The magic of the internet. Hold on, my screen is covered in shit. I have to wash it. Ah! Ah! Ah, fuck. Oh, God. Ah! 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 Ugh. What's up, chat? Ugh. God damn. Ugh. People say that a streamer's chat is like a reflection of the streamer, but I don't think that's true. I'm an extremely sophisticated gentleman, and the only thing my chat wants to talk about is hemorrhoids and stuff, which is fucked up, chat. Someone's medical condition is their own private business. You shouldn't be talking about someone's private medical issues on stream. Boogie said so. So, this past day or so, I have not really been allowed to draw because I was selling my car. Someone commented in the beginning of the stream, what vehicle am I selling? Well, I'm not selling any vehicle because it's already sold. It sold in like an hour after I posted it on like Facebook Marketplace. But I thought it was going to take me quite a lot more time. Which is, I was being like, damn, I'm such a fucking slob. It took me forever to take the photos and like prepare to sell my car. If I have to sell it to a dealer, I'm going to end up losing a lot of money. And that wasn't the case at all. Lucky you? No, nothing to do with luck. It's just because I have a relatively low mileage Honda and everyone wants a relatively low mileage Honda. That's what's going on. I don't know why people even buy American vehicles at this point. Like, even in America, like, I heard that at this point American vehicle quality has caught back up to the Japanese and they're basically comparable. But if you just look on any kind of like Auto Trader, used car marketplace, a price of a used Japanese car like a Toyota or a Honda that has like 100,000 miles is equivalent to the price of like an American car that has like 70,000 miles. So basically the marketplace has deemed that you're like, it's an extra 40,000 miles worth for the Japanese vehicle of reliability. You're getting like an extra 30% of car. This is a Ford family, son. Don't you know with this Royster crap, if you want to keep your teeth Kekona? I heard that back in the day, Americans would get in fights over whether they were like a Chevy family or a Ford family and stuff. Like, despite all the Kekona shit, the Japanese vehicles being worth way, way more than American vehicles is so consistently shown. Like, through basically on every marketplace I was checking, so I don't really know why people would even buy an American vehicle at this point. I knew a guy that wouldn't let people park in his driveway if they weren't driving an American-made car. He was a Marine, so he was an idiot anyways. Yes, we need those types of people in America, or else who will we send in to get shot by machine gun fire first? I think it's pretty funny that even among the armed forces, everyone is like, LMAO Marines. Just keep on telling them that, you know, they're the elite, they're the tip of the spear. Marines are like, that's right, honor, son! And then they go and get, like, absolutely murdered. You sold your car? I sold it for $17,000. It was a $21,000 car when I bought it 6 years ago. And because I was living at home from the pandemic, it only had 8,000 miles on it. So for a Honda, that's basically a new vehicle. Considering that in America you basically just need to own a car at all times just to survive, I think I made out okay. It would have been best if I didn't own a car at all because I was working from home, but unfortunately you can't really get away with that shit in America. There's just no way to not own a car in America, so... I think you need to expand the canvas. No way her boobs will fit. You joke, but I'm actually thinking in terms of like, what kind of like perspective techniques do I need to use to maximize the feeling of the viewer looking at the boobs in the frame. So you want to have the camera as close to the boobs as possible, basically. So then there's a lot of distortion because, like, the camera should be centered like about half a centimeter from the boobs. They follow the rule of thirds. That's a good idea. Let's practice our rule of thirds proportions. So how's it? You're supposed to have like something here and then something here, or like you have to choose one of these. How does it go? I'm actually trying to learn composition now. Where is the rule of thirds page for Grizz and Norm? Composition 101, rule of third. Place focal point in any of the yellow circles. Here, 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 here. Donut. Face. Do not cut your horizon line exactly in the middle. Yes, anywhere but one half. A lot of getting good at art is like drawing unstable things. So you don't want to be able to draw, don't want to draw this as your like grass. You want to draw like this. Like this is large, these are small. There's like a rhythm by having like different sizes and shapes. So anything that's like stable, you're told to avoid because it's boring to look at. So we have to make sure these boobs are unstable, I guess. I hate grass. I don't know how people make foliage look so organic.
I don't like sand. It's coarse, and rough, and irritating, and it gets everywhere. Not like here. Here everything is soft and smooth.
You hear that, guys? I too hate sand. What the fuck? I mean, if you look at some of the reference images I'm looking at directly from the manga, Satoshi Shoji, the author himself, is making sure that the camera is being positioned approximately like less than a foot from the boobs so that there's a lot of distortion going with the rest of the body. He wants the viewer to be able to feel the proximity, the power of the breast. This here is a particularly powerful composition right here, in which the viewer's eye is placed within like 5 inches directly beneath the nipples. This is the same camera technique that Japanese competitive eater YouTubers use, where they place the camera like right in front of the giant bowl of ramen or something, so it looks like the ramen bowl is bigger than it actually is. And then when you pull the camera back, you realize that the ramen bowl is still incredibly fucking massive, because Japanese like professional eating is kind of stupid in terms of the amount of food that you can actually get from some of these restaurants. Alright, so let's actually practice rule of thirds. So would the face be the focal point or the boobs be the focal point? I'm not saying that like in terms of like what I'm aiming, but as a man, would we just instinctively look at the boobs instead of the face? I think the answer is probably, right? There was some kind of study that said that men actually do look at the face, and that the whole like we're only looking at a woman's body is actually fake. But I'm trying to simulate my eye movement across these panels, and I think I am looking at the cleavage. To be fair, the boobs are pretty close to the location of the face, right? So it's not that hard to do both at the same time. Alright, let's actually make it a little bit smaller. Actually, you know what? Let's just change... This is good. It's forcing me to adapt and think about various canvases and compositions and stuff. Instead of like doing the digital thing that I've been doing up until now, is just sort of like just draw something and then not worry about it and go to the next thing. Or, that's not what I meant. I meant draw something and then I can actually expand the canvas and add to it instead of actually thinking about the composition from stage one. But this is good practice. So, let's see. If we have more of a rectangle shape than this square shape. See, I want to fit a second character in the frame. Was that an attempt to put boobs in the focal point of the thirds? Yes. I want to have a second... I want to put, what's her name? The sexo nurse as well in the composition. I figured I needed more space. Notice what a serious artist I am now. Practicing all these concepts like rule of thirds and proper composition and stuff. Harnessing all the knowledge that has been constructed by the art masters of the past to draw giant fucking boobs. Alright, I think this takes up enough of the page. Million years of evolution just for this moment. I'm gonna go ahead and say that, you know how in prison school, the ass man is like, the boobs are fake butt, they can never be greater than the original and stuff like that. But I think that humans evolving to see the boobs as the frontal butt is a great evolution that we should all respect. It allows us to both look at the boobs as our primary focus, but then also simultaneously directly speak to the female and talk to her and stuff. Well, maybe not talk to her, but you know, we can have a frontal conversation instead of just going at the ass from behind, you know? Give a man an ass and he can sniff braps. Give a man some boobs and he'll never go thirsty a day in his life. Yes, I'm sure Jesus, when Jesus said that to his 12 apostles, that was exactly what he meant. I wonder how big Mary Magdalene's milkers were. Probably not that impressive. People of that era, they didn't get the kind of nutrition that we get nowadays. They were underfed, and as a result, the boobs weren't as well made. There wasn't enough energy to support that level of mammary production. Anyone here seen Bleach? Is it worth watching? Only if you want content that's like, Nani? He teleported behind me. Swing! He's so strong. Bankai. All the memes of like, Swing teleports behind you, pulls out special dark blade katana, cuts you into a million pieces. He's so cool. All that stuff, literally every single one, like, I'm not saying it comes from Bleach, because it comes from a million years of manga tradition before that, but in terms of like modern memification of it, Bleach is probably the #1 inspiration. Make no mistake. Also, when people say, like, should I watch this, are you guys actually gonna watch the fucking anime of shit like Bleach and Naruto and One Piece? Why would you watch the anime ever when you can just complete the series in, like, 1/5 the time if you just read the manga? You can flip through the manga so fucking fast. Bleach, you can read, like, 30 volumes of Bleach in literally a day. Because it's just, like, white space. If you're thinking of watching the Bleach anime instead, it will take you like 5 months, especially if you don't skip the filler arcs, which there are many, of course. Gotta figure out where the rib cage is. Even though it's gonna be completely hidden by the boobs. I did that once, but I do not aim to speedrun through entertainment. I do. I like taking thousands and millions of hours of work done by the finest artists and just consuming it without any kind of recognition of how hard they worked for it. The best way to read Berserk is just like blazing through it in a matter of days and being like, ha ha ha, Miura sensei must have spent 50 hours on this one image. I will flip through it in half a second, LMAO. It's like devouring his soul. I can't believe people are upset about One Punch Man Season 3 in the year 2025 being like, no, why isn't this the highest level of animation? No. It's like, welcome back to anime, bitches, where if you get 1 frame of movement per episode, you're doing pretty well. Back in my day, we watched anime where there was basically no movement and we liked it, son. How about you speedrun through making a draft of your manga to send to publishers? I can't do that because I'm busy liquidating all my shit so I can move to Japan. Also, you can only send your draft to publishers once you get like an editor and they're like, okay, we're just going to work on storyboards going forward because your primary concern is making better stories and stuff like that. But most editors aren't interested in you sending just the storyboards at an earlier stage, even if they know that you're relatively good at drawing, because they want you to put in the hours of like finishing manga. So they don't want to encourage just doing the nemu, as they call it, nemu. I don't know what terminology they use in Bakuman, which is, I assume, the only content you guys know that involves like actually how manga are created, but you're supposed to do you send your name to the publisher, but if you don't have any like success yet, they're just like, I'm not taking that until you win your first competition or whatever that shit, until you get your shit published at the initial stage. Then they'll start doing like, okay, we're just gonna send the storyboards back and forth, but any chance on the move being permanent? I'm preparing for it to be permanent. Unlike me, my mother isn't completely aware of what she plans to do. Like, I feel like my mother hasn't said so, but I think she's trying to like, you know, get rid of everything. So there's a possibility I won't have like any place to move back into. Like, she's not saying like I'm kicking you out, because I don't know, I guess everybody isn't fully aware of their subconscious instincts like I am. But I think there's a high chance if I'm not in the house, then eventually she will, you know, there won't be a place for me to go back to, so. Also, I know there's a lot of Europeans in stream right now, but if I want to have like healthcare in America without the government subsidies, I have to pay like $700 a month or something. So I haven't actually checked the numbers yet, but yeah, the whole like, you know, having healthcare situation, it ain't looking great. Good one, Kekona clap. That's right. The only subsidies we allow in America are subsidies for military contractors and corn farmers. So we have extremely cheap corn syrup at all times. Gotta keep our priorities straight, boys. Nobody's allowed to have healthcare, though. That's probably the next thing I have to do, is make sure that my healthcare premiums don't renew, because I'm leaving the fucking country. Okay, Kona, $1 billion to Israel. We must keep the Jews in Israel for when Christ returns during the apocalypse or whatever, I believe is how it works. It's so fun that Israeli healthcare is paid for by the US. Always brings a smile to my face. What? I can't tell if that's a joke or not. Does Israel get healthcare in some way by US government funding? Please tell me that's not true. Yes, but why? Surely my country is not that controlled by a specific religious tribe. They have healthcare, we don't. Yeah, but I assume Israelis pay a lot more of taxes to have that running. Just in case you might not know this, but there's a lot of Israelis who can afford to pay high taxes in that country. It's illegal for you to criticize them. I'm going to Japan, boys. Where we only have to worry about the influence of weird Korean Christian cults instead of American other monotheistic cults. Really, the only difference between a cult and a non-cult is just like how much the general society accepts it as a legitimate religion or not. Let's be honest. Like, there's some differences in like how aggressive they are in taking people's money, but pretty much it just comes down to if the government is, not just the government, but people as a whole are like, oh, it's perfectly fine to give money to the Catholic Church, then people are like, yeah, that's a normal religion. And if it's not, then it's just like, oh, he's in a cult. Japan shares US sentiment about Israel, bud. Japanese people don't know what the fuck their money is going to. I think you have no idea. I don't think you understand how incredibly clueless Japanese people are regarding the type of political shit that we consider to be common sense in the English-speaking world. They're literally living in a different universe. It's like they're looking through a window, but there's like tinted windows, so they can only see some things. Like it's a completely different media ecosystem. It is not the same. Do Japanese people even know what an Israel is? They also don't know what Christianity or Judaism or whatever is either. God, all you guys care about is breasts. You disgust me. You just view the female body as a vehicle for providing you with tasty, milky, mommy sustenance. You're killing me. Holy shit, those bags. This is canon, by the way. I am not exaggerating the boob size at all, in fact. We have these entire internet compilations of official artwork, and every single one of them is like, just like this. Make sure the camera is positioned like right underneath the boobs, so you're looking up at the massive boobs in your face. I'm an ass man? Get out! There are no ass man here. We cannot allow such heresy. I'm a boob man specifically because I want to just draw faces. And it's very hard to have the ass and the boobs or the face in the same, like, frame. You have to do, like, weird shit in which you have the person turning around entirely and stuff. True anime artist knows the power to show not just the face, boobs, and ass, but also all the holes, feet, and armpits in a single frame. I'm being 100% serious when I say that a lot of the mistakes for amateur artists come from guys trying to both put the ass and the boobs in the same frame and, like, fucking up anatomy in the process. There's actually only a few different poses in which you can get, like, the ass and the boob in the same frame. And the boobs have to be really big, usually, for it to be possible. But you have to learn how to draw the skeleton, like I did right here. Figure out where the position of the rib cage is. A noble goal if a bit foolish. So the reason why this is difficult is because the human body only, if you look at it from the top, like this, if we're gonna go straight, and you want it to move like in this direction or this direction, it can only go to about like this far or so. And then the hips can rotate a little bit more, I think. But this is about like the max. I've seen some advice show that you should think about it in terms of like, you know those white plastic erasers that everybody loves made by Japan? Mono. These things. You should kind of think about it in terms of that way. Like the amount in which you can twist the eraser is about like the maximum that you can twist the human body. So like you can kind of go like this. I guess that's wrong. See, I can't even really do it even while I'm trying to explain it. Like this to some amount. You can kind of get to the backside, but it's pretty hard. I can't even do it. Let me try that again. fuck am I trying to do here? So here's the front side. And I'm trying to twist it to the back side. What the fuck? I literally can't draw this. Here is I need to practice this shit. Here's a rectangle. And then you take it. Holy shit, my brain actually can't do this, even though I've been drawing like a shit ton of gesture drawings practicing this. I literally can't materialize the torsion in my brain. What the fuck? And I've been drawing that recently, and I still can't do it. I thought I did one specifically with the eraser shapes for this, but I can't find it. Where was that? Mental block? Yeah. How do you draw a two-dimensional shape bending? I can't even do it with two-dimensional shapes. Here's a piece of paper. So now I take that and make it into a three-dimensional shape. What happens to the top? What the fuck? If it's this thick, huh. I actually can't do it. Interesting. I should be able to do this in my brain, but I can't. I know you'd hate it, but doing a bit of 3D would make it way easier for you. There's no reason to do the 3D. You simply need to just train your brain and memorize how the shapes work. I wish I could show you. There is nothing that anybody in this chat can show me. You fucking amateurs. I will figure it out myself. I have a cult-like following on the internet, and it is your job to stroke my ego. In all seriousness, I should probably fuck around with Blender and stuff. A lot of people do say that it helps, but... Huh, I think I should draw it as like maybe a sack instead of a... I think drawing it as like a just straight up rectangle is fucking with my brain. It's a lot easier if I just think of it as more of a sack than a rectangle. The rectangle and then like thinking about like the thickness and stuff is messing with it. I've also been trying like doing like pillow shapes. I think the pillow shape is easier to visualize actually, like this. Like it's literally just like a pillow. You know, a lot of manga authors nowadays, they don't even like draw anything without using those 3D models and stuff. And they only draw on top of the 3D models, and as a result, their stuff becomes super flat looking. I think the point is that I shouldn't worry about this plane right here if I'm going to do the eraser shape. You will always see this plane. That's what's fucking me up. If it's a three-dimensional object, it's going to be like this. Here's the front, and here's the back. But this plane is always going to be visible if we're looking from the side. That's what is messing with me. It's like this. See, I figured it out. You stupid motherfuckers, how dare you doubt me? I know all of you doubters and haters are watching this stream. every single day at the gym, I'm remembering how you guys thought I wouldn't be able to make the NBA. And that's what powers me to work harder. As I listen to my alpha male motivational Spotify playlist. That being said, I still don't really understand how much you can put on torsion of the torso, but you can generally have some amount of the back here, and then this is like the side of the body, and then like the frontal pecs. You can see like just a small sliver of pec here, like right here, and then also get like the pelvis here as well. So here's the abdominals, here's the pec and the pelvis. So this allows you to have this area, which is where the boobs attaches to. So that allows you to have compositions where you have like all this, the boob from the side. And like that. I guess that isn't a ass and boob at the same time. So when you want to have the ass and boob at the same time, you would want to, you probably at least want the crack of both cheeks, right? So maybe this amount of ass. So let's say we're gonna focus on getting about like this amount of ass. For the ass plus boob composition. Here's the pelvis. So if you have this much, the question becomes, how much can you twist the body without breaking the spine? So it would be like this, right? I think this is the maximum you can go, honestly. Like this amount. And here's the arm. You can get a very small amount of the back. This might be pushing it. So if you're thinking about the center of the body, it would be like this. Maybe not. Let's think in terms of the rib cage. The rib cage would be kind of like this. So here's the center of the back. And you want to sort of be going off screen because you want to be twisting the torso so that the back center line is kind of becomes invisible, right? And then the front center line would be kind of like over here. How much? I think this is kind of the maximum right here. Yeah, this is, so you can, I think you can barely get like the landing pads of both boobs is kind of the maximum. So you'd have like one boob like this and then the other boob like this. This is kind of the maximum I think you can get. And the torso is too big, but you know what I mean. I think this is as much as you can push it if you want to get both ass and boobs. Even this feels a little off. I mean, the obvious answer is you need a reference image. I guess you wouldn't even see the center line of the back here. Thoughts on inverted nipples? I don't like them. Never did. Never liked them. I would never go out of my way to go for inverted nipples. If you do that pose yourself, you'd see both pecs. Yeah, but you wouldn't get to see both breasts though, because one would kind of shadow. It would be in the shadow of the other. You'd be kind of be able to see the both. You can see the both pecs here, but the second breast would not be very visible. This would be kind of the maximum, I think. Do Dojin artists do the same exercise with Booba? I don't know. I think everybody uses 3D models nowadays. I still can't tell if that's a real thing or made up for hentai. It's a real thing, but it's not that common. This head needs a little bit more angle to it. Like this, maybe. Why are we thinking in pecs? Tits swing and sag way different? Yes, but the pecs are where the boobs sag from. If you want to draw proper boobs, you need to think where they're hanging from. Obviously, have like super long boobs like this. There is no limit to how much you can draw. You can have like a straight up backside of the person and be like, oh, I can't see the boobs at all. Oh, wait, here they are hanging from the side. Ah, yes, the most attractive boobs. The massive hanging ones. In actuality, you can see the boobs from the back side if the boobs are big enough. But they have to be big. This here is a good example. Actual, real female woman. But as you can see the boobs from behind. They are visible. Some amount of boob. And she's not even that massive. These are like, you know, relatively big fat booby, but you can still kind of see them. You have to have that waist though. I feel like the IQ of this stream is about 5. As we can tell based on the chat, which is just like humana, humana, humana. Milky, milky, mommy, booby. Suck on the booby. Licky, licky. That's the only thing that people have been typing this entire chat. Guys, what's your opinions on Machiavellian psychology? In the field of personality psychology, Machiavellianism is the name of a personality trait construct characterized by manipulativeness, indifference of morality, lack of empathy, and a calculated focus on self-interest. The creation of a manipulation scale. This is in 1955. It does not refer to the political theory espoused in Machiavelli's books. Because the two concepts share the same name, they can be confused and conflated with one or the other, which isn't really helpful to Machiavelli, if you think about it. Don't we just call that psychopathy nowadays? I don't know, but the Wikipedia page is calling it the Dark Triad. Machiavellianism, narcissism, and psychopathy. I feel like people can't even differentiate between like psychopath and sociopath and stuff. So what's the point of adding more layers to this like concept? Psychology is such a pseudoscience, guys, let's be honest. No wonder women like it so much. Female college student 101 is just like, what do I feel passionate about? Talking to other girls and psychoanalyzing them. I must take Psychology 101. Literally every female college freshman is just like, I have no personal interest and I'm a boring human being. What do I want to do in life? Oh, let's take psychology. It's basically just like one step away from fucking astrology. It's a made-up science anyways. It sure as fuck is. That being said, concepts like Mindhunter are fucking cool. I would love to be like a like an FBI agent using my power of Psychology 101 to hunt down a serial killer. I'd be like, yes. This man has masturbated all over the My Little Pony Friendship is Magic figure. It's a Pinkie Pie figure in a jar. What does this mean? What kind of dark psychological truths is the My Little Pony figurine telling us? I'm gonna say he's a white male, overweight, dedicated Nintendo fan. I find it somewhat amusing whenever a woman is toxic abusive, it can be quickly explained away with she has bipolar disorder. I'm toxic and abusive because I hate women. How about that? I mean, I don't think bipolar disorder is an actual excuse for anything. If you want to be like the real females get out of jail free card excuse pack, it's not even like bipolar disorder. It's like, I was lonely. My boyfriend was not empathetic enough to my needs. I had to have an affair because my husband, who was overseas getting shot at, wasn't there for me. You have to understand, it was unavoidable. That's more of the excuse, right? If someone has bipolar disorder, that means you're probably like, I can't deal with them. You love women but hate people. I love women just about as much as I love, you know, other human beings, which is to say, not very much. I just find being around people stressful, so... How you feel when a partner cheat with someone uglier? My extensive knowledge of hentai dojin has notified me that when this happens, it's because the other partner has a giant penis and gives her non-stop orgasms every night. It's ridiculous to talk about loving. You love individuals. I don't know. I think there's extroverts who just like being around people in general. And they should not be trusted because that's psychopathic behavior. It's normal to not be around, want to be around people. How many things of hair does Sagiri Yuuko have? One around the eyes. There we go. 1, 2. What a weird ass hairstyle. I have to figure out other hairstyles. I've been spending a lot of time trying to figure out what hair I want to give to my Power Girl-esque, but not actually Power Girl main girl that I'm drawing for my next manga one-shot. But I've been having difficulty trying to figure out. It's very easy to get in a similar pattern and draw the same thing you drew last time if you're not careful. People should read more about the scholar Socrates in today's age. We lack a lot of common sense and groupthink. Granted, the actual Socratic method is just using plain common sense, so the most popular philosophers basically just end up being common sense. Same thing for like Confucianism and shit. If anything, I wish people would stop saying that's just common sense, because it's often like right-wing Fox News commentators saying something that is common sense just to end the discussion. By saying something is common sense, you basically say, like, I don't have to prove it because everybody knows this already, which isn't really scientific at all, you know? It's basically giving up on an argument. You ain't winning any debates being like, I don't know. It's just common sense, bros. Humans were made in God's image. We all know that, right? How can we have descended from apes? Impossible. If anything, I find it impossible not to believe humans have descended from apes, considering, like, we all basically act like them. Half the time, the apes are acting more like humans than the humans are. You see an orangutan smoking. How can you not be like, he just like me for real, for real? The orangutan wants to see the human baby. Okay, he's lost interest. He's like, I want to see that. He looks at it for like 5 seconds, like, it wasn't as interesting as I thought it was. Maybe he was just blessing it. The orangutan was like, I bless you with my orangutan power. Orangutan driving. I mean, is there any difference between this guy and, like, the average boomer in Florida driving their golf cart? He looks exactly like your average uncle. I mean, he's not driving it off the road or anything. He's just like a local Keikona. Holy shit, how long is this video? He's driving it for 4 minutes. It's just like, he's just going in circles on the golf cart for 4 minutes. It's just like, I will no longer walk. This golf cart belongs to me. It's just going on. That's pretty fucking funny. Do people call everything AI now? Even drawing mistakes, we're fucked. The One Piece animator who apologized for drawing 6 fingers posted an apology full of emojis. LMAO. I mean, if you're a professional animator and you drew 6 fingers, you should be embarrassed whether it's AI or not. You must remember that if it's an animator or a mangaka, they're drawing like 500 pages a day on 2 hours of sleep if they're lucky. So any kind of like, why is there a 6 fingers? Like, because he hasn't slept in 5 days, that's why. These guys are just like living in a haze of mental deficiency because they never get to fucking sleep or rest, so. Apparently Jack the Chimp was an alcoholic and worked under their influence at all times, yet never made a single mistake. Seems about like an average American railway worker, except they make mistakes all the time. If Amtrak had that level of a record, more people would be willing to use it, I'm sure. The average Amtrak experience is just like, get on the train. Well, don't get on the train because it starts by being like 3 hours late. Finally, the train arrives. It's another hour late to leave the station. While you're sitting in the train, the toilet starts to overflow and shit starts to spill out into the hallway. You ask the train worker to do something about it, and they're like, it ain't my job, son. You're smelling the shit pool into the hallway and seep into your seat. The train stops again because of mechanical failure. You smell the fresh smell of shit in the hallway for another 5 hours, hoping the train will start moving again. And then eventually, they're like, well, we can't get this train moving. You're going to have to walk another 3 hours in the snow to get to Chicago. And you might or might not be reimbursed for the problems. Don't ask us. This is like a standard Amtrak experience in America. You think I'm exaggerating, but I'm not. My mother has used Amtrak a total of like 3 times in her life, and in one of them, the actual shit spilling out in the hallway thing happened, so. I've used Amtrak, I think like twice in my life, and in one of them the train was delayed by like about 3 hours and stuff, so yeah. It just like fucking stops in the middle of nowhere and they're like, well, we're having some mechanical issues. One other time my whole class went to the zoo and one of the baboons, who had a huge open enclosure, jumped in front of the girl and started jacking it. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen. You should have jacked it yourself to fight back against the sexual harassment of your classmate. That will show them. Or be like, don't worry, Jennifer. I'll stop him, and then pull out your dick and be like, take this, orangutan. I will come before you. And then she'll be like, oh, you're so heroic. Thank you, sir. I understand how the female psyche works perfectly. think this is good enough. Let's make sure the arm is going at a different angle, like here. I thought you hated psychology. I must understand the female psychology so I can manipulate them into buying my manga. I know the female psychology in that I know that if I put one ikemen and then have the other ikemen talk to the first ikemen and they're like, then the female's reading this page. She's gonna be like, there, I did it, guys. I solved Shonen Jumpu. I remember one of my friends telling me how his ex tried to do these psychological manipulation tactics, but she was too stupid to make any of them work. I think I'm very difficult to manipulate psychology-wise because I don't like being around people in general, so whether you use manipulation tactics or not, I'm gonna try and get away from you no matter what. I'm generally a pretty distrusting human being. You can't gaslight me for long. Also, I have a lot of truth and knowledge and facts and logic going through my brain. I'm just like my hero Ben Garrison. Was it Charlie Kirk who was the one who was mainly just using destroying liberals, using facts and logic to debate liberals or whatever? Where does that meme come from? Born with the Asperger's buff. I think the person that deceives us the most is ourselves. So being like completely honest to yourself is already a huge benefit, I think. I feel like some of the people, a lot of the biggest problems they have in life is that they can go through the entire life like making excuses for themselves and like not actually knowing what they want, or like just being like, I'm not fat because I don't, I eat too much. I'm fat because of, genetics or shit like that, right? So just being like completely honest to yourself is actually a huge benefit because you can skip like the 5 years in which you're in denial about how it's not your fault that, you know, you're super fucking overweight, for example. You can just be like, oh shit, I'm getting fat because I'm eating too much. I have to stop eating as much. So how is everyone doing today? "16 more days until I can bust the biggest nut ever." That's really dumb. No, not November is dumb. You don't need to jack off every day, but you don't need to like go an entire month without jacking off. The idea that like there's like your testosterone levels go up and you become more powerful and shit like that. It's like, bro, you think you're the first person who has figured out, have thought of the concept of not ejaculating? Like, people have been doing this for the last 1,000 years. If there was some obvious benefit of not ejaculating, everyone would notice how like masculine and powerful, you know, priests are or whatever. Although I guess it's debatable whether like priests were actually going no nut, considering they were probably having like shit tons of gay sex with boys even 1,000 years ago. But there's been a lot of people who have been like, I shouldn't jack off, blah blah blah, and it's not like they suddenly become like noticeably more powerful. Don't forget your drawing reps, guys. Always stay grinding. If I was gonna offer a advice for stuff that I recently learned that you could immediately implement, it would be to start using a transparent utensil for drawing if you're doing it digitally, and then use blue, which I'm doing right now. The reason is it makes it much easier to visualize drawing to the other side of the object like this. Like, it makes it much easier to do, like, framework stuff for, like, spacing of cubes and shit. Cubes, spheres. And then you can be like, oh, these are the primary lines, and these are the ghosty lines on the other side. So if you're always drawing with transparent stuff, then it makes it easier to visualize the space. Just drawing to the other side for everything. Yeah. I've come to the conclusion that the authors that we consider to be like really good artists are good at two things for manga, in the case of manga. One is being able to convey depth in a drawing, and the other is having a good balance between blacks and whites. Often everyone talks about how good Toriyama is, and he was really good at both of those things. So if you have like a panel, if you have multiple panels, you generally want to have the panel to be a size in which you can be able to like convey depth. So in this case, like if there's a room, like it has to be big enough for you to have like a person in the foreground, and then like have some kind of like lines that go into the back, so that it feels like you're looking into a three-dimensional space. Right. And some of the artists that we really idolize, well, I don't know if we, but, you know, the royal we, the generalized we, like Otomo Katsuhiro was like a real stickler for this type of stuff. Like making sure that you have like some amount of perspective in every panel. And even if it's a small panel, it's nice to just have like some amount of like perspective like this. But then the other thing I was talking about is having a very strong combination of black and white. So making sure that, like, say, if you're gonna have it like this, you would want to have like the foreground be nice and dark, right? And this creates a very strong visual anchor. And then maybe like have some nice black areas on the guy's shirt. And maybe a nice dark shadow here. And then you use the white as a form of spacing. And then this combination, when you have good balance, and then can feel like the white, there's enough like white areas where your eye will kind of escape to from these areas of high contrast where you have the speech bubbles and like the blacks and stuff, and then it kind of goes to these kind of spacing areas. This kind of directs your eye. So this is especially easy to understand if you look at shit like Murata. I've been really looking at Murata's paneling right now, because you can read all of the One Punch Man chapters online for free. But it's so obvious. Well, yeah, it is obvious. It's just a really easy way to see what's going on. Like, look at this, right? First panel, hard black silhouettes. So you have, and then he puts the lettering in hard black as well. So you have this amount of beta, which is the pure black, to compromise the stuff, and then he uses the action lines to create a gray space, and then here you have the white space, and then you make the lines for the movement here to be hard black, so this creates contrast. So it just naturally, your eye goes to these high contrast areas. And then it's things travel from the right side to the left, and then the left side to the right, and he doesn't flip the character positions. That's a really big part of paneling. But yeah, make sure you have a certain amount of black, 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 and then you can get a little bit of easy blacks with the shadows. If you can't find enough black, you just make these areas to be black, and then of course the black of Tatsumaki, and then you also have to make sure you have enough white. I've been recently thinking that it's easier to think about this stuff in terms of like you're painting with white instead of you're painting with black, as in you are thinking in terms of like what white areas you're going to leave. I feel like that's easier for me to visualize how much stuff I need. It's just like a mental setup, but I found that easier to think about it. Murata isn't even human? That guy makes no sense. I mean, he can just draw, bro. These Metal Knight scenes have such a crisp amount of blacks. I mean, this becomes more difficult when you start adding color. That's a whole nother level of stuff you have to think about, and I can't really talk about it because I never work in color, but you're gonna give your paladin some black gloves next time around? Yes. So, designing your character design beforehand with having some specific black areas makes it easier to have enough blacks on the page. Like Goku is a perfect example, right? The combination of having black in the hair and then the black areas of the dogi right here, the legs, and then the belt and the Goku mark right here. That allows Toriyama to create a very balanced panel without having to use screen tones and shit. Remember that it was way harder to add gray areas in Toriyama's area because you would have to use analog and attach screen tones by hand. So it was way more important to have these nice hard chunks of black because it would allow the screen to be, you know, put together without having to add extra tone and stuff like that. This is Super right here. It's immediately obvious that it's Super, isn't it? For some reason. Why is it so obvious? You think that even like a simple ass panel like this, where it's just Goku from the front, you wouldn't be able to immediately recognize that it's not Toriyama, but you can. You always can. It's so different. Like even like something like that has been drawn a million times like this. Like the line work is different. Some of the wrinkles of the cloth is different. The hands are weird. The way he shades the muscles is different. I mean, I wouldn't want to be put in that position of the author, but are people getting warnings because we're talking about blacks? This is so funny. This is so America-pilled. You can't even talk about colors without them being like, he's starting a race war, guys! Same thing for One Piece. It's actually really interesting how Oda does a lot of shit. Like, let's see if we can just immediately go to Shonen Jump. They always have a new panel. You can see that Oda is already kind of entering the whole maybe he's drawing too much stage. Like, I feel like he could eliminate some of these clouds right here and have more white space. But here, like, he's leaving the white space of the waves and then, like, putting it in here. So one thing that Oda does that Toriyama didn't do is Oda does a lot of these kind of patterns, cloth patterns, like these vertical lines in the pants right here, for example, and then having like a full black jacket, but then putting in these white U-shapes to add an extra complexity. I honestly think that Oda overdoes it. This feels a little better right here with the amount of white. Boa Hancock Sexo. But yeah, Oda has a lot of very complex pattern shapes that Toriyama never was interested in doing, like the pattern on the snake. These are drawn by assistants, of course, but he puts a lot of extra details in it. But here's a good example of how to draw a basic panel with background, is that you make sure that you have one object in the foreground and then make the object in the foreground darker. The foreground is always darker, same thing for here. Boa Hancock is darker in the front. See? Even if it's a tree, they make it darker. Did Oda study fashion runways a lot? That might be why all the women have no innards, because he was studying too many anorexic people. Drawing too much is an understatement. This was always Oda's MO for a while. I'm shocked at how many people started complaining about having too much details in One Piece. I feel like during the, I don't know, up to, I don't know, maybe Water 7, it was perfectly fine. but I haven't read like the Wano Kuni arcs and stuff, but so many people on the Japanese internets were just like, bro, this is hard to read. There's too much stuff. There's just like, there's too much objects, but you know, Oda is just a real maximalist, so I don't think you can really stop him. Like, what are you gonna do if you're an editor? Are you gonna be like, Oda-sensei, please, I know you have $1 billion, but people are complaining on the internet, you need to draw less. And Oda is like, LMAO, no. Like, what are you gonna say? Oda gonna be 90 and still writing One Piece? I mean, I think the average fan would prefer that Oda or Miura or whatever just like draw slightly less and then get more chapters out, but that's not really their problem because they all have like the best assistants the business can buy. Actually adding more detail to the page costs them nothing because half of the time the detail they're adding, they're not adding it themselves. It's being added by their assistants. And in fact, like, I don't know if they're getting paid by the hour or by the year or whatever, but like they actually have to guarantee work for their assistants, so it's actually weird for them to be like, you don't have to do anything, go home. I mean, Oda can afford to pay his assistants whether they're doing work for him or not, but like, it just doesn't cost him anything to add detail unless we're talking about drawing like 30 characters in the background, which he does a lot as well. Imagine telling a master to draw less. Those fucks sound entitled. I mean, they have a point in some degree because the point of manga isn't like to be looked at, it's to be read. So having less information on the page can be important if you want to be able to flip through information quickly. Like, if you read recent One Piece chapters, you really have to read them, right? There's a shit ton of dialogue. But Oda has all of these responsibilities to things besides just as readers, because he has to serve as the essentially the script writer for the anime and movies and stuff as well. And because the anime is just straight up based on the manga, the anime needs him to have more dialogue and more information because they have to stretch out each of these chapters to like, you know, fucking 30 minutes each when it should probably be like 10 minutes at most. So if Oda starts cutting the dialogue and reducing the amount of information in his chapters, like, all the anime people are like, please sir, we need you to, you know, cram more shit. Hunter x Hunter, yeah. I get you're talking about visual cohesion with Oda's works. So, in general, this isn't like just me talking about it, this is a general theory, is that manga, it should take you about 1 second to look at each panel. And if it's like an action manga or shonen manga, maybe even like half a second, less than 1 second. So if you have too many fucking text bubbles, then it just hurts the whole rhythm. When manga is at its best, you kind of get into a rhythm in which you can just sort of flip through pages, and the whole, your eye moving across the page and going through panels becomes kind of unconscious, right? I'm sure we've all entered that state in which you're binge reading a manga and you can just go between each page, and that's what gives you the verisimilitude of being there. So when you have too much information and too much dialogue and too much details, it kind of hurts the flow of the eye. Air Gear for me, Air Gear has a lot of problems besides having like too much detail or stuff. Oh, I zoomed that shit? Well, okay. Air Gear, I have a lot of issues with. I would go through like page by page with Air Gear and talk about its paneling mistakes and stuff. But I don't have it on hand, so I can't really do that. Do you think he'll finish One Piece before he dies? Who knows? Don't ask me. But he did a good job of being like, we're not going to tell you what the One Piece is. Good for him. I've seen so many comments on Japan who are just like, the Japanese who are just like, just tell us what the One Piece is so I can stop reading. I'm just like, well, I guess he's got them hooked. If you have like one thing in which everybody needs to find out what it is or they can't stop reading, he can just keep on going, can't he? That's good setup in terms of plot. I've talked about this before, but the best way to think about how to construct any kind of narrative, whether it's even fiction or non-fiction, is to think of the whole thing as like a series of questions and answers in which you present questions to the reader and they keep on reading because they want to find out the answer. So Oda did the extremely good idea of creating one really big question at the beginning of his series, and he still hasn't presented the answer and everybody still cares. What if the One Piece is literally nothing? If there's one person that I'm not worried about doing that, or doing like One Piece was the friends we found along the way or whatever, then it's Oda. Oda, if there's one thing we've learned, it's that he has a lot of difficulty doing less. He always wants to do more. So, if anything, the real thing you should be worried about is that we find out what the One Piece is, and then the manga has to continue another like 10 more volumes after we find out, because like then he starts the final battle or something. Like, I think that's way more likely, unfortunately. I feel like after 20 years of hype, it can't possibly live up to expectation. Well, what are you even expecting, though? Like, I just hope that it has some cool correlation to other things that already exist within the manga or whatever. Like, it better tie into the world government in some way or something. I don't know. I don't actually fucking care, let's be honest. But Oda said that he had everything planned out beforehand in his notebook as a middle schooler, which I don't think it's true. I'm sure he's changed a bunch of shit along the way, but everything as in broad strokes? No, he was like super specific. Like, he had all the number of nakama that they're gonna have like planned out. That's pretty specific. So all the people being like, I hope that Carrot joins the crew or whatever. It's like, no, Oda has it all planned out. It's been planned out. It's been written in the notebook 30 years ago. He didn't plan everything. He planned quite a bit, I'm sure. He should have planned out some sort of hockey system besides hockey, so we wouldn't have like super vague powers. Unfortunately, you can't really plan out that much for these kinds of weekly series because it can get canceled at any time. That's the big secret. At any point, it can just be like, yeah, your series is over. So if you're holding stuff in reserve, there's a high chance that you won't get to use it. That's why when it turns out that a series is getting axed, they start being like, actually, the main villain was the main character's father. Guys, I had all this shit planned, but I don't get to actually draw it. Suddenly, that's what happens. Ball got raided, not happening often. It happens once in a while. It does make me wonder if there's any meaning to it, because I don't think it actually changes the fate of a streamer at all. I think it's so temporary. I certainly have never followed anybody after I've been transferred to a different stream, after I was like watching a stream and like they ended it and they take it on a raid to a different stream. I never like, oh, I love this new streamer, let me follow them, but that might just be a me thing. There are streamers who like you enough to raid you. I don't know. I think they're just like looking at various other art streams, right? People generally raid within the same like category of video games, so I just followed just now. Well, I guess you're proving me wrong. How small do I want to make the nurse? Yeah, let's put her in upper corner. And then the sound effects. I've noticed that I have a lot of difficulty inking on stream. Apparently inking requires more attention from me than other things, but I can kind of do the composition on stream and I don't really have to fix that shit. I know of multiple streamers who got their start because a bigger streamer rated them. This is all Forsen's fault. It's because Forsen doesn't raid me as usual. We must blame Forsen. I have never watched a Forsen stream, by the way. Pokemon, debate me, you coward. I've seen people comment in this stream that I could have been a successful streamer, and I see all the like social shit that streamers have to do among themselves to make sure like they have like all these little clique groups and stuff, like it's high school and stuff, where they promote each other. I'm just like, no way I would ever be able to do that. You made a friend? Sure. I want to say, like, I have no friends like I always do, but seeing that I'm moving out of my mother's house soon, I'm going to be alone in an apartment in Japan. I should probably try and maintain as much social connections to human beings as possible because, like, I'm going to get lonely pretty soon. I don't get very lonely, but I get, like, small amounts of lonely, I guess. start doing vlogs at smelly cons. I'd have to go there. Is rent cheap in Japan? It's pretty cheap, yeah. It's way cheaper than places like United States or Europe. And well, I don't know about Europe, but American real estate market is, you know, out of control, of course, so... See, I don't really know what I'm going to be paying for rent because I'm moving into my deceased aunt's apartment and I will be paying her daughter rent. But we haven't really decided how much to pay yet. Obviously, I need to at least by the minimum cover shit like utilities and shit. But I don't know how much I'm going to be paying. But I've seen places that are like just one room in Japanese apartments. If you're just going to get like a single room, it can be as low as like 40,000 yen, 30,000 yen per month if you're living kind of in the middle of nowhere. So we're talking about like $300 if we're going by current exchange rates, which, you know, you would never be able to get that kind of a deal in America, no matter where you're living at this point. I envy you. I get super depressed on weekends when I don't see people much. I used to feel more need to be around people, and then I realized that I could still get lonely when I was around people, and I realized that just because you're near someone doesn't mean you actually have any kind of real connection to them. And then I was like, maybe I'd just rather be alone. So that created a very strong, like, loneliness resistance ability in me. They say that if you, like, actually put people in stuff like solitary confinement, it actually fucks with their brain and shit, which shows the degree to which how people are social animals. But I like to think of it in terms of the scene in Evangelion when Ritsuko is talking about the dilemma of the hedgehog and how the hedgehog seeks company, but when hedgehogs get close to each other, they hurt each other with their own bristles. So human sociality is about trying to find the comfortable distance in which you can relate to people. I keep on thinking about that. Also, I also think about how I don't think hedgehogs hurt each other just because they have spikes on them, because I don't think those spikes are that painful, but you know what? It's just a metaphor. I'm 14 and this is deep. 14 is the best time to watch Neon Genesis Evangelion. I'm glad that I was exactly that age when Evangelion was being sent to the States. You young ones in chat will never understand what I'm talking about. But if you're actually like the same age as Shinji, and you're watching the scene in which he goes into Ayanami's apartment and falls on top of her and grabs her boob, you're just like, God damn, I want to grab that Ayanami boob so bad. It just hits harder. Just get a hamster, if not for company. Their comically horrifying death will still entertain. I have literally never heard of hamsters dying in a normal way. So I was just talking about how I'm gonna move into my aunt's apartment, right? So she had a hamster, and when I was just visiting her, just out of nowhere, they were showing off the hamster, and then we noticed that like something was wrong with its eye, and like literally its eye was popping out of its fucking skull. And they called the vet and asked what they should do, and the vet's like, you can't save it, it's gonna die. And I'm like, what the fuck? I just visit, and it happens to be the day in which the hamster dies in a horrifying way, in which its eyeball comes out of its fucking skull, and I'm like, what is wrong with these creatures? What the fuck? It did not make me want to be like, oh gee, I sure want to have a hamster. The good thing about hamsters dying in horrifying ways, I guess, is that you won't be tempted to spend like thousands and thousands of dollars on medical expenses to keep them alive, like you would have to with like a dog or a cat, right? The big question with owning like a dog or a cat is like, how much money are you going to spend on their medical expenses when they're getting old? Is it worth it? Is it worth like spending $6,000 on cat surgery when it just might mean they might just live another, 8 more months or something? If you're rich, I guess it's fine. You can get like your dog cloned or something as well. But if you're a poor ass motherfucker like me, you actually have to consider that. If I could have, I would have made my cat immortal. I mean, isn't that every pet owner? But then you can't make them immortal. And then you have to consider not just like the financial case, but like whether, it would just be better for the cat's comfort to just euthanize them at some point. It's a difficult moral and emotional choices you have to make. Anyways, I can't have a cat if I'm in Japan because some of my relatives that will probably visit the apartment have cat allergies, so they were never allowed to have a cat. If I made my cat immortal, it would be too OP of a killing machine. So, one of the previous cats in my house just murdered like small animals on a daily basis, so yeah. Cats just murdering everything has always been an actual problem that we don't really talk about. It's funny how in places like England, where there's all these like big fans of small creatures like birds and moles and voles and stuff like that, like cats actually become a problem. Same thing for foxes and stuff as well. Like these animal lovers, they can't decide what they should do for the animal because animals murder each other. So then you're put in this weird position where like if you're protecting the rights and saving the lives of one animal, that means that animal's gonna go around and like murder other animals. It's a weird setup. Mine catches squirrels and bites their heads off and then comes home like meow, what the fuck? Yeah, the previous cat decapitated a whole rabbit and then dragged the rabbit into the house. So when I woke up and went downstairs, I saw like this trail of blood leading to a headless rabbit in the kitchen. Or maybe it was the living room. At least it wasn't on carpet. And I was like, oh great, it's like the fucking Godfather scene in which he wakes up with blood in his bed, and it's his fucking decapitated horse. And he's like, oh! 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 Hashtag just cat things. Last time mine broke our mouse's legs, took it to our house, and then played with it, tortured it until we took it away. Yeah, pretty common cat practice. The current cat, not the previous cat, the current cat has like zero hunting instincts and is like the neediest motherfucker I have ever met with, and she does not shut up. And if you give her like the wrong type of tuna, she'll start complaining to you. And she'll just keep on going meow, 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 meow forever. It's extremely obnoxious. One of the things that I'm looking forward to when moving to Japan is not having to listen to her yell at me. I'm just like, bro, you have food. I don't care if you want fresher tuna. Each one of those tuna packs costs like $3, dude. The current cat is nobody's favorite cat, unfortunately. But you're stuck with her, as is often the case with pets. You don't always get to have your favorite pet. Sometimes you get your not-so-favorite pet. You know, Sagiri Yuuko's boobs are absolutely massive, but so are the other characters. I just want to point out that she's supposed to be the big boob character, she's supposed to be the middle boob character, and she's supposed to be the small boob character. And she had smaller boobs in the beginning of the series, but by the time that the author got to drawing this picture, now the boobs are growing inside, and now they're pretty big as well. He couldn't help himself. This is a very common problem among artists. It's like you designated the character as like the relatively flat character. It's not as bad if the character is like 100% completely flat as a board, but even if you have like relatively small boobs, by the time you get to like page 200, the boobs have now grown from like a B cup to like a C cup at least. This just happens. Adaptational cleavage. It's also one of the things that AI has the most problem with. If you look at any kind of AI anime boob pictures, it's very common for the boob size to vary greatly from like a page-to-page basis. They can't keep that shit consistent. It's very hard to keep it consistent. It's just constantly changing. I think we can make the boobs bigger, so I'm going to. I really need to maximize the amount of boob I can fit in the canvas. Like, I think this is maximum space right here. Inazuma's submissive Kunoichi character lived in my head rent-free for some time last year, the one from Triage X, the antagonist. Submissive Kunoichi who just wants the dick of ugly bastard son, but will never receive it, I assume, because she would enjoy it too much. Anime trope is if they want the dick too much, they're not allowed to get it. That would be too easy. So if you ever have like an evil leader antagonist, and he has like his second in command sexy female body, and she's like, I will follow him forever to the depths of hell. Despite the fact that she's walking around with like in a thong, he's never gonna have sex with her, even though, you know, she desperately wants it. And then if the main character points out that like he's never gonna fuck you, she's like, I don't care, I'm following him because I believe in his ideals. And it's like, no, you're not. You want his dick. Many such cases. Joker has the same dynamic with the blonde one? Maybe. I think the most obvious ones are where it's like an antagonist. Like Selvaria from the tank video game. Valkyria. I'm forgetting what it was called in English. Valkyria Chronicles. She's a extremely typical prototype of this. I'm telling you, man. What I want, I don't want a girlfriend. I want an assistant. If she has big boobs and is loyal to me, better, but I just want someone who's like, I am your right-hand man, I will do anything you ask me to, and I can be like, good. Now draw this background. It would make my life so much easier. Alas. Loyalty is hard to find and buy. Did you just forget Harley Quinn's name? Oh, I thought you were talking about the Persona Joker. Well, I think... does Harley Quinn ever get the dick? I think it doesn't change depending on which DC comic. Aren't there some DC comics in which it's sort of implied that Harley Quinn sometimes gets the dick from Joker, not like never gets the dick? Like the Joker is generally more interested in killing the Bat, but every once in a while he'll give Harley Quinn the dick. Whereas some of these like Japanese archetype ones, it's like obvious that they never ever get the dick under any circumstance. They are eternally kept thirsty. Joker wants to fuck Batman. Sorry, Joker. Batman's taken. He has underage boys that live with him in his Batcave for completely platonic reasons. There's nobody I find more relatable than this normal human guy, this super rich billionaire playboy who has all of this military grade equipment in his underground superhero bunker and has his personal manslave that gives him everything, and then he also has like a bunch of young orphan boys that he is personally training for reasons. He's just like me. For real. You may have noticed, but I do not have a super high opinion of American comics, although I do enjoy them. If anything, it's kind of shocking that it took as long as it did for manga to basically completely eat the American comic book market. Considering that you started to get anime imports in like the 90s and stuff. It took like a solid 20 to 30 years for manga and anime to just completely devour the American comic books. Joker is clown sexual and Harley looks like a jester. No wonder he doesn't care. I was notified from my followers that there was like some falling out with Harley at some point in one of the 10 million different DC storylines, and he got a new girl, and I looked her up and she was hot. I thought Punchline was a very attractive female because, you know, she has Hime-cut. Well, not really Hime-cut, but close enough to Hime-cut. Aren't manga taking a big hit from manhwa now? Not really. That's what Webtoon wants you to believe, but Webtoon isn't even like profitable. Wait a month for one black and white chapter versus a week for full color. If you can't tell the difference in quality between the fucking manhwa art and whatever Japanese art you're comparing it against, well, I think that's your problem. As someone who has read enough manhwa to see that literally every single panel is just like a close-up of a face. And then they copy-paste the same face. If you can't recognize... Also, what is it with people, Americans, on, like, who are, like, color? Oh my god, there's color. The coloring sucks, though. It's not even good color. I mean, can we even name, like, one manhwa that is successful besides, Solo Leveling? That's literally it. What else is there? I think a lot of that is just, Korean psyops, honestly. What's your favorite manga? You wouldn't know. I'm too much of a hipster. For those, if I'm gonna list manga that you probably know, I'd probably say Battle Angel Alita, aka Gunmu. I like the Last Order arc the best. I own a Samsung phone, and I've owned Samsung TVs before. And I like Korean food, but the unfortunate truth is like 90% of shit that comes out of Korea isn't necessarily cheap knockoffs of Japan, but it's pretty close. And I have serious issues with vertical scrolling. I absolutely despise scrolling. I'd be like 70% more like interested in manhwa as a whole if they would just stop the scrolling format. I think that's fucking atrocious. Someone needs to understand like that scrolling is not how you should be reading manga on a phone. The correct way to read it would be to have single pages put in like a cell phone size and then have you tap the pages. It's not to just like endlessly scroll downward. That's fucking awful. I mean, what's to stop them from just making you just like tap the screen? Just tap it once. It's like they started this really dumb tradition based on some like random Korean website, and nobody in the industry is smart enough to realize that it doesn't actually add anything to the format, and they're continuing it blindly for no reason. It's really, really dumb. As someone who is being forced to think about paneling, it basically removes paneling from the entire equation. And you don't necessarily have to have paneling on every screen, especially if you're going to do it in the format of a phone. But you should at least make it so you have to tap the screen once, and then it gives you like an entire image, and then tap it again and gives you an entire image. If it was up to me, I would make it so that you would have like a format specifically for phones, and you would have 2 panels per like phone screen. Or if it was like a splash panel, you would use the entire phone screen as one panel. But you need to have smaller panels to give people the impression of like time and importance. So if you have a big panel, then you know that as a reader that something important, something weighty has happened. And if you're scrolling, or if you have like only one image on the screen every single time, then that sort of eliminates the sense of like focus. So you should have at least like 2 panels per screen, maybe 3. and then you would just make the text boxes larger so it'd be easier to read. Whatever the idea, you have to make it so that the manga is built around reading it on a phone, I think. There are high-profile artists even yapping how scrolling through kilometers of white for emotion is the future. Well, they're wrong. As a result, the only thing that Korean manga has to show for it is like a shitty power manga, like solo leveling and stuff. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that the Korean population is gonna be decimated from their lack of births before that level of webtoon format becomes like the standard. Honestly, I don't even like a lot of the Korean adjacent artists, like Boichi. A lot of people list Boichi as like an incredible illustrator, but I think he's dog shit at paneling, and I don't think he's good at long-term storytelling as well. In fact, I know he's not good because he's written some of the worst stories of all time in terms of like trying to figure out what happens on like a page-to-page basis and stuff. Korea is extremely based with power fantasies, even more so than Japan. That's because their society is more depressing and more dystopian than Japan. The more dystopian the society you're living in is, the more power fantasies are appealing. So as horribly overworked as Japanese people are, the Koreans are even more horribly overworked. I want to be looking it down at her boobs, but I guess I have to have the eyes to be more open. Is that why all the manhwas are just absurd cultivations where they become powerful by eating drugs? Yes. Manhwa storylines. Isekai adjacent stuff. I suddenly have become the owner of one of like the 5 major monopoly companies in Korea, and now I have hot women jumping on my dick. Revenge fantasy in which you have sex with your sexy aunt. That's about it, right? I think I just listed everything. Alright guys, I'm gonna end the stream here because I think I drew all I can draw in terms of this artwork. And now I have to do the inking off stream because I somehow can't get the inking to work when I'm talking to you guys. See you around guys, see you around boys, good night!